All right, it's 10:30, so we're going to get moving and of course be respectful of everyone's time. So, good morning. Thank you everyone for joining us for today's mini webinar. Today's webinar is going to be focused on the Michigan Achievement Scholarship, but we're also going to kick off Scholarship Month. So, November is National Scholarship Month. This is when we're going to see a lot more scholarships coming into play for our students, especially our seniors that are getting ready for their post-secondary path. So we want to make sure that we're sharing information with you all, some of our resources that hopefully you can pass along to your students as they're looking for some of that free money to help pay for college. Now, before we get started, I want to make sure that you all are aware, for everyone who participates in today's webinar, you are able to receive sketch credit. So the big thing is to request sketch credit. We want to make sure that you're emailing sketch@micollegeaccess.org. So what I have up on the screen, and make sure you include your name, the name of today's webinar, which I have written right there, the Michigan Achievement Scholarship Overview and Scholarship Month Kickoff, and then also your PIC number. So just make sure that you don't forget that PIC number piece, and make sure that you email sketch@micollegeaccess.org to receive credit for today's training. And don't worry, at the end of today's mini webinar, I'll go ahead and I'll put this information back up on the screen for any of you who might have missed it. And then I also want to say, before we dive into Michigan Achievement, if you all have any questions along the way while we're going through this information, please drop it in the Q&A feature. So don't use the chat, use the Q&A feature, please. That's going to be monitored by some of my colleagues behind the scenes. So just know that we've got additional folks there to answer any questions that you might have. So again, just make sure you're utilizing that Q&A feature. So I want to dive into the Michigan Achievement Scholarship. For those of you who may be aware that this scholarship's been around now for almost a year. I can't believe it. It's already November. So last year we released and we unveiled the Michigan Achievement Scholarship. So our first cohort is our class of 2023 high school grads. So I want to kind of preface as I move into Michigan Achievement. I'm sure many of you have questions given the changes that are coming to the FAFSA application. But I want to just share that a lot of the things that I'm going to share today are going to be still related to our class of 2024 grads, but you're going to see some things like the need indicator, or that need component of Michigan Achievement Scholarship. You're going to hear me and see that we're referencing that EFC number, that expected family contribution number. But we do know that with the new FAFSA that's going to be released in December, we do know that EFC is going away. So we know that that's going to be replaced with something called SAI, or the Student Aid Index. However, we are still waiting for guidance about what that need indicator, what that need component will be for Michigan Achievement moving forward. So for your class of 2024, now that we know EFC will not be used in the new FAFSA, we're waiting for that guidance to find out what is going to be that new component or that new need indicator. So I just wanted to say that up front, because I'm sure for some of you that might have been your burning question. But of course, we are, waiting for further guidance. We've submitted our recommendations, but we're waiting for kind of final legislative approval and guidance on that. So stay tuned. Still, the information that will be shared today will be super super helpful because it's going to talk about other eligibility pieces and other pieces of the Michigan Achievement Scholarship. So this will help you as you're working with those students. All right, so just some quick things about the Michigan Achievement Scholarship. So if you didn't know, this was the largest investment in higher education funding here in the state of Michigan. So this was a big deal when we released the Michigan Achievement Scholarship last year. And we're really excited to see students taking advantage of that scholarship this year. We know that students can receive full or partial funding along with the Michigan Achievement Scholarship. And this could be things like other state aid, like the Tuition Incentive Program or TIP, and federal aid, such as the Pell Grant. Now, really, the overall goal of the Michigan Achievement Scholarship was to reduce students' loan debt. So again, really helpful and hopeful that students will take advantage of the Michigan Achievement Scholarship to reduce their student loan debt. And students have a maximum of 5 years overall to use the Michigan Achievement Scholarship funding. So giving students a little bit more time to utilize this funding. And this does support the Michigan Achievement Scholarship, basically has 2 different pathways. So it supports a student skills training pathway, and then it also supports what we would call college choice or that more traditional college pathway. So today I'm going to talk about both of those paths and give you some more information about each. And this is limited to undergrad students, and students do have to be enrolled full-time. So that's another key thing about the Michigan Achievement Scholarship. And they have to be enrolled at a Michigan-approved institution or with a Michigan-approved training provider if they're going down that skills pathway. All right. So to kick things off, I want to talk about that more traditional pathway. So that college choice pathway for students who might be looking to get that 2-year, that 4-year degree. We've got up on the screen 3 different institution types and how the Michigan Achievement Scholarship looks at each of those institutions. And before I get started, I really want to make sure that I note this because we were receiving some of this information from some of our high school counselors in the state. So some were thinking that Michigan Achievement was just for class of 2023. And that is not the case. So it started with the class of 2023 high school grads, but now this is continuing. So all the way your class of 2024, 2025, so on and so on. So we're really encouraged and hopeful that the scholarship will be around for a very long time. So just keep that in mind, that class of 2023 was the class that was first eligible for this scholarship. So the first bullet point on your screen, this speaks to the Michigan Achievement Scholarship at our Michigan community colleges or tribal colleges. You'll notice that the award amount is listed as an up to award amount. So at our Michigan community colleges or tribal colleges, students are eligible to receive up to $2,750, and that's per year for up to 3 years. So again, what's going to happen at these schools, the reason it's listed as an up to amount is because at these financial aid offices throughout the state, they're going to be able to see all aid that the student is eligible for. So they're going to be able to see, does the student have additional scholarships and additional grants? And so what they're going to do is they're going to first put in that minimum award amount, and then they're going to look at the other aid that the student's eligible for. And if there's room in the student's financial aid package, then they're going to slide in that remaining award amount. So keep that in mind. If students are maybe seeing a partial award, that might be due to other scholarships and grants, other aid that the student students eligible for. So we're always recommending that students follow up with a financial aid office at the college or university they're thinking of attending. That way they have a better idea of how the Michigan Achievement Scholarship was awarded. Because for us at the state, we can only see what state aid they're eligible for, whereas at those financial aid offices, they can see everything that the student is eligible for. So up to $2,750 at a Michigan community college or tribal college per year. And just so you know, the minimum award amount is $1,750, with the last dollar being the remaining $1,000. Now, the second bullet speaks to our Michigan public universities. So students that are eligible for the Michigan Achievement Scholarship attending our Michigan public universities, they're eligible, or they could be awarded up to $5,500 per year. And this is for up to 5 years. So assuming that that student continues to complete their FAFSA, continues to meet the eligibility requirements, they can receive the Michigan Achievement Scholarship at that public university for up to 5 years. Now, the third bullet point speaks to our students that might be at a private college or university. So students there can receive up to $4,000 per year, again, renewable for up to 5 years, assuming that they continue to meet the eligibility requirements. And we'll talk about those on the next screen. But just to break it down, for the third bullet point at our private colleges or universities, the minimum award amount is $1,000. Then again, they're going to look to see, the financial aid office will see, does the student have enough room in their budget? And if they do, they're going to slide in that remaining $3,000. For the second bullet, I know I didn't break that down for you, at our public universities, up to $5,500, but the minimum amount is $2,500. Again, they're going to look to see, is there room available in their financial aid package? And if there is, then they'll slide in the last dollar, which is the $3,000. So definitely, we want to make sure that students and families know about the Michigan Achievement Scholarship, and we want to make sure they know, because super easy, no special application, just submitting the FAFSA. So again, for class of 2023 high school grads, what we were using to demonstrate need, that component we were using was EFC. So we were looking to see, for class of 2023, did the student have an EFC of 25,000 or less to be eligible for the Michigan Achievement Scholarship? Now, we know that EFC is being removed for this new FAFSA. And again, we're waiting for that guidance about what that new need indicator will be. We know that it won't be EFC because EFC is going away, but we're not sure what might replace it. It could be something like SAI, the Student Aid Index, or it could potentially be something else. So again, want to make sure that I let you all know we're still waiting on that guidance. I know you want to be able to share that with your students and families. So just know that once we do have that guidance, we're going to be sending out email communications. I'll also be offering another mini webinar. So more than likely, this will be after the first of the year, because by then we've had FAFSA released, and we'll have that information, knock on wood. So as soon as we have that, I'm going to offer another mini webinar that's going to talk through what is that new need indicator. That way you all have that information and you know to share that with your students and families. So other key things in terms of eligibility for Michigan Achievement, students do have to be a Michigan resident, be a U.S. citizen, permanent resident, or have approved refugee status. They have to graduate from a Michigan high school or its equivalent in 2023 or after. So we also get asked questions about GED, certificate of completion for high school. These are all acceptable as long as that student, again, has graduated from a Michigan high school or its equivalent 2023 or after. Now, this is a big one that kind of separates Michigan Achievement from some of our other scholarship and grants. The big thing here is that the student does have to enroll full time as an undergraduate student. So either at our Michigan community colleges, tribal colleges, public universities, or private universities. And they have to enroll full time within 15 months of high school graduation. So again, this is something that sets it apart from some of our other programs. Students do have to enroll within that 15-month time frame. So make sure that you're letting some of your students know that. Last year, some of the communication that I had with Michigan Achievement scholarship students was letting them know, like I had one young lady who said, well, I don't know if I'm ready to enroll full time. I might want to start at my community college and start part-time. And so when I talked with her, I said, well, that's fine. You could do your first semester part-time. You could even do that first year part-time, but you just want to make sure that you're enrolled full-time, within that 15 months of high school graduation, so you can start using Michigan Achievement so you don't miss out on eligibility. So if you have students that maybe just want to get their feet wet initially, maybe they want to go part-time, letting them know that they can do that, but they have to then switch to that full-time enrollment within that 15 months of high school graduation. And once the student receives their first payment, that's what starts that 5-year clock. So remember I said in the previous slide that students could use Michigan Achievement Scholarship for up to 5 years. So once they receive that first payment, that's what's going to start that 5-year clock. Students who are at our community colleges, they might be there 2 years. If they're there 2 years and then say they transfer to a 4-year institution, that means they have 3 years of Michigan Achievement Scholarship eligibility remaining. Now, remember, students can use the Michigan Achievement Scholarship at our community or tribal colleges for a total of 3 years. So if it takes them a little longer and they use Michigan Achievement Scholarship for 3 years at their community college or tribal college, then they have 2 years of Michigan Achievement Scholarship eligibility remaining if they decide to go on to a 4-year public or a 4-year private. So it does give students that ability to transfer, gives them that option. So just something, again, to let students know if they decide to keep building on that associate degree. And students cannot be incarcerated or in default on a federal student loan. So that was that traditional college pathway. So again, for students that might be looking for that 2-year or that 4-year degree, definitely we want to let them know about that traditional pathway with Michigan Achievement. Now I want to talk to you about the skills or that training pathway for Michigan Achievement Scholarship. So this is called the Michigan Achievement Skills Scholarship. And we've got some exciting things to share, some new updates for this particular track or path on the Michigan Achievement Scholarship. So for the Skills Scholarship, students can be awarded up to $2,000 towards tuition if the student enrolls in a qualified career training program with an eligible provider, and this is per year for up to 2 years. Now, important to note that students cannot be awarded both the Michigan Achievement Skills Scholarship and the Michigan Achievement Scholarship in the same academic year. So if you have students that might be looking to go down that skills pathway to start, you just want to make sure they know if they do like a 5 or 6 month program, and then they want to go ahead and move into the Michigan Achievement Scholarship, which they can do, it can't be in that same academic year. So that student would have to wait until the next academic year, right? And then they could start down that traditional pathway of the Michigan Achievement Scholarship. But students can change tracks. So keep that in mind, that they can start down the skills pathway. They can get that short-term skills training. And then once they've, received that certification, they have that whatever is remaining of that 5 consecutive years. So remember, students can use the Michigan Achievement Scholarship for up to 5 consecutive years. So if they go down the skills pathway to start, we're just going to look to see how much time did they spend down the skills pathway, and then we're going to subtract that from that 5 consecutive years. So just important to know that we're going to look at those things, and that students cannot receive both skills and Michigan Achievement Scholarship within the same academic year. Now, exciting news, the Michigan Achievement Skills application is available now. So for our class of 2023 grads. So I want to stress this because I know for many of you that are joining us, you're probably working with a lot of 2024 high school grads. So important to note, we want that class. We want them to wait until they graduate from high school to complete the skills application. So just want to stress that again. If you have students that might be thinking about that skills pathway, maybe they're not looking at the traditional college route. If that's the case, definitely show them information on skills. I'm going to show you in a little bit here where that list of eligible training providers is. So we do have a list. And we want you to be kind of prepping them, having them look through that list, but we don't want class of 2024 grads completing that application until they officially graduate from high school. Now, any of you still working with class of 2023 grads, maybe they're going to sneak in that graduation, in December. You can let them know that they can, once they graduate, they can complete that application as well. And of course, they can start exploring that eligible training provider list right away. Now, we want you to know that the requirements for skills are slightly different than the requirements for the Michigan Achievement Scholarship, and you can check out our website for more details. One of the main things that is different between those two programs that I'll share is the requirement of the FAFSA. So for Michigan Achievement Scholarship, we need, and the student has to complete that FAFSA to be considered, but for the Michigan Achievement Skills Scholarship, the FAFSA is not required. So we just want to make sure that students know of those differences between the two programs. So definitely check out our website, and I'm going to show you here in a little bit where more information can be found. So some additional things about the Michigan Achievement Skills Scholarship. So they have to complete that skills scholarship application. They have to be a Michigan resident for at least a year. And again, they have to graduate from a Michigan high school or its equivalent in 2023 or after. And then I just put in that little reminder for our class of 2024 high school graduates. They should wait until they graduate from high school to complete that application. So again, help them, explore with them, but encourage them and have them wait until after they graduate to complete that application. And the key thing here is that those students that are looking to use the skills scholarship, they have to make sure that they have not previously earned an associate or a bachelor's degree. And eligible students can continue to participate in the Skills Scholarship until they earn a degree, certificate, or credential with the Skills Scholarship, or until 2 academic years have passed since they began participating. So whichever comes first, if they get that, credential, if they get that certificate, then that's going to be, that's going to be the clock, the measurement that we're looking at, or 2 academic years, whichever comes first. All right. So if you want to stay up to date on everything that's happening in the Michigan Achievement Scholarship, both within skills and that more traditional pathway, definitely check out our website if you haven't already. We've got a whole listing of FAQs. We've got information on our social media accounts. Also, a lot of details about the program, and you can sign up for email updates. So we know, and I know I shared with you that we are going to see some changes, and the big one's going to be what that need indicator is for the Michigan Achievement Scholarship. So if you want to just be up to date, make sure that you sign up for those email updates. And as I said, once we have that further guidance, we're of course going to be sharing that with all of you. So another thing that we created, if you haven't already got a chance to check it out on our website, is we did create this digital toolkit for our partners. So we want to help you in spreading the word, increasing awareness at your schools, in your communities, with students and families about the Michigan Achievement Scholarship. So we created this digital toolkit because we didn't want you all to feel like you had to create your own things or reinvent the wheel. So we created a toolkit for you. This toolkit has brand guides in it, social media graphics, social media messages, and hashtags. It's also got email blast language. So if you're planning to send an email out to all your students and families, maybe once FAFSA is released and you want them to know a little bit more about the Michigan Achievement Scholarship, definitely check out some of the language that we've already created and lean on some of that language. That way you don't have to create something from scratch. We also have our one-page flyer that contains all of the information that I shared with you today in the mini webinar. So you'll have all that information at your fingertips. And that's on our website at michigan.gov/achievement. We also wanted to let you know that we're offering Michigan Achievement webinars for students and families. So our next webinar is tonight, so at 6:30 to 7:30, and then we're offering another Michigan Achievement Scholarship webinar in December. And all sessions are free of charge. They're open to the public, and you can find registration information, all of that on our website. It's on the screen for you, but that's michigan.gov/mistudentaid. And so again, just an opportunity to deliver some information to students and families. So we would just ask, if you want to advertise this to students and families at your school, so that they're able to gather additional information about the Michigan Achievement Scholarship and just get prepared before that FAFSA releases. Definitely let them know about our webinars. The nice thing is that for everyone who registers for one of our webinars, even if they're not able to attend live, we do send everyone who registered a copy of the recording of our presentation, and we also send them a copy of our slide deck. So just keep that in mind. Definitely let your students and families know that simply by registering, they're going to get a copy of our webinar and they can view that at their convenience. All right. So I also wanted to take a minute to show you some of the different resources that are available on our website. So some of you may already be familiar. For any of you that haven't got a chance to explore our website in depth, definitely know what I've got on your screen circled in red. That's our high school counselor tab. So that's where many of you are going to find a lot of helpful information, things like publications, where they can request an event. So just a reminder that the My Student Aid team, we're scattered throughout the state and we're offering events both virtually and in person. So definitely check out the request an event page where you can find out more about the events we offer and see about getting a My Student Aid rep to speak with some of your students and families. We also have our My Scholarship search tool. So I'm going to show you that here in a minute. And don't forget communications like our social media accounts, Gov Delivery. That's our mass email that we send out. We send all of those emails via Gov Delivery and our Counselor's Corner videos. So I guess I'll do a shameless plug that I've been doing some Counselor Corner videos this year along with our newsletters. So hopefully some of you have clicked on my videos that are at the top of the monthly newsletters that we've been creating this year. But I hope you find those videos and the newsletters helpful. And we'll be getting ready to release the next newsletter here in November in about 2 weeks. But I have started the My Scholarship search tool and our social media because we know that November is National Scholarship Month. So this is the month where many scholarships open up and it's kind of the kickoff to scholarship season. So we wanted to make sure that we let you know on our social media accounts, so Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, we're going to be putting up a lot of information about various scholarships. These could be through community foundations, through other organizations, could be through the institutions themselves, right? So I'm going to show you in a minute our My Scholarship search tool, but definitely check out our social media platforms and make sure you're driving your students to some of our social media platforms as well. We know they're on their phones all the time. We know they're on social media. So getting a chance to drive them to some of that free money, some of those resources to help them pay for college. So I wanted to take a minute to show you our My Scholarship search tool. So bear with me because I just want to kind of pull up the new screen. All right, so this is our homepage. So you'll notice if you come to our My Student Aid website, this is where you're going to land. And the first thing you're going to do is you're going to select students and families. So if I select that students and families tab, I'm just going to go right down. You can see My Scholarship search. So if I click there, you'll notice that this is a place-based scholarship tool. So students can filter by the county, and I would filter by the county in which they reside. So we get asked that question a lot. So for me, shout out to my Washtenaw County folks, I'm going to look up Washtenaw County. And then you'll notice what happens is automatically we've got some things pre-filling in, right? So some different scholarships. As I mentioned, we've got some in there from some of the local institutions, Eastern Michigan, Concordia, University of Michigan, but then in Washtenaw Community College, right? But then we also have some community foundations, right? The community foundations for Southeast Michigan, Ann Arbor Community Foundation. Shout out to them. When I was a senior, I got a scholarship through the Ann Arbor Area Community Foundation. So, again, just another resource for students to utilize as they're looking, as they're searching for some of those scholarships that might be available right in their own backyard. And you'll notice you also have the ability to just generate this information in a PDF. But you have all these live links right below as well. And I'll say too that, we have our student assistants that work in our office that are researching, trying to find some of these scholarships, also looking up like start and end times. So when does that application open? When does it end? So we're trying our best on our end to make sure that we're constantly updating this database, and we're trying our best to pull, old or expired scholarships down once that application has passed, that due date has passed. But definitely check out the My Scholarship search tool. And then I also just wanted to show you, because we talked a lot today about the Michigan Achievement Scholarship, I wanted to show you where you can find that list of eligible training providers, because we are so excited that that list has been released. So if you're on the Students and Families tab, go to My Student Aid Programs. And then once you're here, you're just going to scroll down. You'll see this is where we list all of our My Student Aid programs. So if you're looking for additional information, fact sheets, things like that, definitely check out this programs page. But you'll notice Michigan Achievement Scholarship, and I'm going to click full program details. So once you go here, you'll notice they're sharing some of the information that I shared today. If you scroll down, here's those two paths that we talked about. So you've got that traditional kind of college, university track, right? And then the career training path. So if you click career training, this is where you're going to see some additional information. So information about eligibility, information about those eligible career training programs. So remember that list of who those eligible training program providers are. So you'll see the list right here. If I click that link, it's going to take me to this listing. So you'll notice you have the ability to filter by county. There's some occupational categories if your student is looking for a specific category or specific type of training. But you'll notice they're giving you information on who that training provider is, contact information, website, and also letting you know what that credential is. So for this medical record technician certificate, this particular credential is an industry recognized certificate or certification. So we're really excited that we've got this list. Definitely check it out. Encourage your students who are maybe thinking about that skills training path. Definitely let them know where this list is. Encourage them to kind of look through it and find out if the area that they're interested in, if we've got some of those career training programs in our list. But again, just keep in mind with your class of 2024 high school grads that are interested in skills, we want to make sure that they wait to do that application until that student graduates high school. But definitely in the meantime, explore with them, let them know about our website, let them know about the different information that we have available within our website. And then I just we'll go ahead and wrap up here. So I'm just bringing us back to the original PowerPoint. So just a couple things to let you know, we do have our next mini webinar that's taking place on November 16th. This is going to be the TIP scholarship overview and best practices. So we're going to let you know the ins and outs of the tuition incentive program. And we're also going to share information with you about scheduling a TIP Talk event at your school. So we do offer, as part of our outreach events individual tip talks with tip eligible students. So we're going to give you some of those best practices and how you could schedule a tip talk at your school, and just give you helpful information, resources about the tuition incentive program. So that's coming up, and you can register for that right on our website. So definitely go to that high school counselor tab and you can register right there. We also wanted to let you know, in case you didn't know, we are offering virtual financial aid nights, and we're offering a couple daytime financial aid kind of 101s. So if you're looking for a presentation that kind of provides an overview of the financial aid basics, definitely look to schedule or register for our financial aid webinars. Tomorrow on November 2nd, that will be our second daytime financial aid presentation. So if you're looking for some programming for your students to offer during the day, definitely tune in, get registered, tune in to one of our daytime sessions. And then we're offering another daytime on December 7th, and then 2 other nighttime sessions. So we would just encourage you, this is something that you can let your students and families know about. And again, by registering, even if they can't attend in person or attend live, we're going to send them a copy of our recording and a copy of our slides. So just another resource for you all as you're prepping your students and their families for the FAFSA and for just the financial aid process. So I want to let you know, just flashing on the screen again, that sketch credit information for you. So again, you can receive sketch credit for participation in today's mini webinar. You just need to email sketch@mycollegeaccess.org, include your name, the name of today's webinar, which is the Michigan Achievement Scholarship Overview and Scholarship Month Kickoff, and then also include your PIC number. So we wanted to make sure that you had this information again. I know we've had some questions coming in through the Q&A. But I definitely want to, of course, let you all know if you have any questions about the Michigan Achievement Scholarship, you can always contact our customer care center. I have the phone number up on your screen right now, along with the email. So if you want to email us at mystudentaid, you can email us directly at mistudentaid@michigan.gov. And I will say one thing I didn't mention, and this will come up as we see what that new need component is for the Michigan Achievement Scholarship. Some of you may remember in the MySSG system, we had a column last year that let you know what students met the EFC, that need indicator for class of 2023 for the Michigan Achievement Scholarship. We added a column in the high school counselor portal that just said yes or no to whether or not students were eligible. And just know that once we know what that new need component is, once we know what that will be, we're going to build that into MySSG again. So those of you that have access to the MySSG high school counselor portal, that will be added in once we know and once we have final approval of what that need component or that need indicator will be. So I imagine it's going to look very similar to how it did last year. We'll have like a yes or no area in there, just helping you to identify who are the students at your school who are eligible for the Michigan Achievement Scholarship. So just know that's coming. I know we're hopeful that we're going to get this information and get this guidance ASAP, because we know how important it is for you all and the work that you're doing with students. And we want to make sure that students and families know what that indicator is going to be. So just keep that in mind, that as soon as we know that information, we're going to be releasing it to you all right away.
Emily, would you mind? I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
Would you mind going back a slide to the sketch?
Sure.
We have several attendees that need the sketch credit information again.
Oh yeah, for sure. So I got it up on your screen. We don't want you all to lose out on sketch credit. I do get asked a lot for the mini webinars, are they college or career sketch credits? These are college sketch credits. So know that. I know I've gotten that question several times. So this will be in that college category. But yeah, we want to make sure you get credit for today's webinar. And yeah, I know there's been other questions coming through. I'm just going in the Q&A, making sure we're all good. Okay, and I know there's a question about MySSG and the site, and they're wondering why it doesn't have all our students listed. So, a couple reasons. I would say one, if you didn't attend the MySSG mini webinar, the previous one, our last mini webinar, that was on module 2 of the MySSG high school counselor portal. And so for that, we did a whole run through of all the data that's available in MySSG, and we talked about how a record is created. So the short answer is this: students have to have one of 3 things to have a record in our system. A FAFSA, so we know none of your seniors have a FAFSA yet, so you're not going to have anything in there. A tip record, so if they're eligible for tip, they're going to have a tip record, or an SAT record. Now, currently, the SAT records that we get are the scores of a 1200 or higher. So keep in mind that if your student, we know no one's done a FAFSA yet, none of our seniors, so they're not going to have a FAFSA record. If they're not tip eligible, if we don't have a tip record, they won't have tip in there. And if they didn't get that SAT score of a 1200 or higher, they're not going to have an SAT record. So it's important to note that MySSG is not like a clearinghouse. It's not a database that's going to have every student. We want, even though we want to know where every student is in the state, we want to know what high school they're at, what their grad year is. We're working towards that. We're hopeful that we're going to be, getting even more records, like mentioning SAT scores. We would love to have all SAT scores, right? So we recognize that there's some limits and there's some limitation in terms of some of the sources that we use for data. But that's how a student record comes to be in the MySSG system. And we can't add a record. So if you were like, oh, well, Sam Smith is at my school, here's his birthday, here's his birth date, here's his SEPI UIC, I can't just add him. I have to wait to receive one of those 3 things. So the FAFSA, the SAT score, or the tip record for that student. So I know it might be a little frustrating, and I know that typically FAFSA would have already opened, right? So you probably are used to in years past seeing more students, but because of that delay in FAFSA this year, it's going to take a minute, right, to start seeing some of those FAFSA records populate. But I would recommend, if you weren't able to be in that last mini webinar, that was module 2 of the MySSG system, I would just recommend go to our website. We have all previous mini webinars recorded. So you can just click that link and it'll take you right to that recording. So that might help answer some of the questions that are out there. Oh, and I see the question about 9th grade tip students finally uploaded. So we are working on that. It seems like we started getting some of that data. So you might see that you might look in some of your 9th grade students, you might see some more records in there. So we have been working on that and uploading more records. Also, just a heads up that November is the month that we get our TIP data file from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services. So remember, once a year, we get get that tip data file, and we get it in November. So I think we get it next week. And last year that file contained like, I think close to 60,000 new student records. So just important to note that we have to upload that file. So that's a lot of data, but it takes us a little bit to upload that file. But you all might see changes in your tip student list once we upload that data. So those of you that are already looking and looking at some of your tip student lists within MySSG, know that you might see a change once we do that upload in November. So I would say, good rule of thumb is to pull your list again, either in December, or you could pull your list again if December's just too busy and a lot going on. You could pull it after the first of the year and then just compare your lists and see, oh, is there a big change? Do I now have some more freshmen listed? Do I have some more seniors? So I would say keep that in mind for any of you that are pulling your tip lists. We're about to get that data file, so you may see some changes. But I can see the Q&A looks all good. Shout out to my colleagues behind the scenes answering all your questions. But yeah, we want to make sure you get credit for attending today's training. So make sure that you submit this information to sketch@mycollegeaccess.org. And with that, the Q&A looks empty. I'm trying to keep you all under an hour for these mini webinar trainings. So have a great rest of your day, and feel free, reach out if you have any questions or concerns. We are here to help. Take care.